All rise, veuillez vous lever. The International Criminal Court is now in session. L'audience de la Cour pénale internationale est ouverte. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Thank you very much. When we were in the ex-parte session this morning, Mr. Steinberg, you indicated you had some submissions to make, which we thought was, we did not hear you then. We wanted that you make any such submissions in the presence of your colleagues on the opposite side. You may proceed.
Indeed, Your Honours, and perhaps I should make it clear that even at that time, I did make it very clear that these submissions would be made inter partes.
Yes, you did.
I just wanted to bring to the Chamber's attention the fact that firstly, the provision of the Constitution to which my learned friend Mr. Keaton Katwa referred to, 149 and 150, deals on the face of it with the permanent removal and replacement of the Deputy President. And that's certainly not, certainly the prosecution doesn't suggest that should be done. And that could possibly be characterized as a regime change, and that's not what we had in mind. But in the prosecution submission, the answer is to be found in section 147 of the Constitution, which details what, in fact, are the responsibilities and functions of the Deputy President. 147.1 reads, "The Deputy President shall be the principal assistant of the President and shall deputize for the President in the execution of the President's functions." And subsection 2 provides, "The Deputy President shall perform the functions conferred by this Constitution and any other functions of the President as the President may assign." The point I wish to make from this is that the functions of the Deputy President are largely within the discretion of the President himself. And if one looks at the functions of the President...
Mr. Steinberg, so that we don't prolong the discussion, I believe that what provoked any reference to the Constitution was your suggestion that the Deputy President may delegate his functions to somebody else when he's not in the country. And the question that arose was whether the Constitution permits the Deputy President to make such a delegation of his own functions and powers.
The answer to that, from my reading of the Constitution, and of course I'm not a Kenyan constitutional expert, that is clear, but from my reading, although it does not provide for the Deputy President to deputize the functions, it provides a discretion to the President to assign those functions to an appropriate person. It says, so my submission is that there is a solution and that the President may assign necessary functions to another responsible person who may continue in the absence of the Deputy President. So there is a solution. All I'm saying is that there's a solution to be had if it is desired. And on that basis, I think that in the time granted, the Kenyan government, in consultation with Mr. Ruto and with the President, should certainly be able to make arrangements to provide for Mr. Ruto's absence after Sunday this week.
Including assignment, the President, are you saying the President is empowered constitutionally to assign the functions of the Deputy President to somebody else?
No, Your Honours. What I'm saying is that, well, not the function of a Deputy President, that you will be acting as Deputy President, but whatever functions the Deputy President performs are performed at the pleasure of the President, as I read it. And at the pleasure of the President, as I read this Constitution, they may be assigned to somebody else. And on that basis, my submission is that the absence of the Deputy President or the presence of the Deputy President is not essential to the resolution of the aftermath of this crisis. And that is all I wanted to say. Yes, thank you, Your Honour, that's all.
Your Honour,
You're on your feet.
in our respectful submission, the prosecution are tying themselves into knots. Guidance may be gleaned from, as a general principle, from Article 69(8) of the statute, that in most circumstances it's not for this court to start ruling on the application of the domestic laws of a state. Not only my learned friend has accepted, like myself, he's not a constitutional expert of Kenya, neither are we Kenyans. If submissions are needed on this issue, in our respectful submission, the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya would be the appropriate officer of state to come and speak about the Constitution, for which he is the principal legal advisor to the government. But, Your Honour, the prosecution submission really is characterised, we say, by unfortunately, a characteristic that an argument is being constructed that is aimed at achieving certain objectives that the prosecutor, for whatever reason, wishes to pursue. Whereas we say the proper and principled approach is to start with the law, with the application of principle and fairness and logic, and then follow those principles to get to the result. But, Your Honour, once that there's an imperative, whether it's that the President, for whatever reason, or the Deputy President, for whatever reason, physically sits in The Hague, come what may, or for any other application that's said to have been somehow to the benefit of the country, that is somehow viewed as unsavoury or inconvenient for the prosecution, it seems that the arguments that are being presented simply don't withstand scrutiny. So, Your Honour, from a constitutional point of view, in our respectful submission, my learned friend doesn't have standing, expertise, or enough sound legal argument to make the arguments that he put forward. The other aspect is that, as I understand matters, and we have eminent lawyers from the Kenyan bar here that will speak with far more authority than myself, that the President, of course, is the highest elected official and head of state. There is, under the new constitution, a presidency of which the deputy is an important elected part. It's not an addendum at the pleasure, as it were, of the President. They are mandated by the electorate to fill that office, and there are certain responsibilities that arise. By way of interest, the security docket, the internal security docket, is actually under the portfolio of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. That's the way that Kenya has arranged its affairs. And with the greatest of respect, it's not for outsiders to start saying how Kenya should arrange its affairs. It is a sovereign country, and it can arrange its affairs with maturity the way it thinks best. Your Honour, we say that however one looks at it, the arguments are that there is very good cause, as the trial chamber has found, for the Deputy President, Mr. Ruto, not to be here to deal with issues of state. The more pertinent matter really is whether or not we proceed with the witness. We're happy to do so if the court is so minded, or alternatively, it's the period of the adjournment. Your Honour, apart from that, I have nothing really to add, because with the greatest of respect, there really isn't substance to the application that's been made by my learned friend, or the submissions made in relation to the constitutional interpretation of the Republic of Kenya.
Very well, Mr. Khan, but what Article 69(8) says is, quote, when deciding on the relevance or admissibility of evidence collected by a state, the court shall not rule on the application of the state's national law, unquote. So that says what it says. I mean, it does not mean that on other matters, when the constitution of a state says what it says, in language that we can all understand that affects the operation or the proceeding before the chamber may not take it into account. But we don't need to debate the point. Okay.
I'm grateful.
Mr. Katwa Keegan, do you have anything to say in response to strictly in response to the prosecutor's submissions on the Constitution?
Only one observation, Mr. President and Your Honors. The Article 147 that my learned friend has referred to in subsection 2 states that the Deputy President shall perform the functions conferred by this Constitution and any other functions of the President as the President may assign. So that even reading from that article alone, there are some specific assignments that the Deputy President has and that are not subject to the President. That's all I wish to say, Mr. President and Your Honors.
Mr. Nderitu, you knew I will come to you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors. I really don't have much to add, only to say that the Deputy President under Article 147 is principal assistant, and until there is notification of the assignment of the roles, then perhaps we have jumped the gun. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Having concluded on that additional submission of the Constitution, the Chamber will render its ruling on the application.